Hello, everyone, and welcome back to IELTS Speaking with Cal. This is episode 4, and today we're going to change things up a little bit. Instead of focusing on part 1 as we usually do, we'll jump straight into part 2. The topic for this episode is history, a subject full of stories, lessons, and inspiration. Stay with me as we discover how to develop strong ideas, use advanced vocabulary, and deliver a fluent, high-scoring answer. Let's get started. Let's kick off this video with some hands-on practice. First, grab a piece of paper and a pen to follow along. Get ready to test your skills in a real-life challenge. Let's see how well you can perform. Now you'll have 1 minute to prepare and 2 minutes to answer. First, let's review the question and jot down some notes. Aim to write down 15 distinct words during this critical 1-minute prep time to help you ace the Part 2 speaking test.
Okay, now you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Great job! You've just tackled one of the toughest speaking Part 2 questions. Well done. Now, it's time to grab your pen and paper again. Jot down some notes while listening to this amazing sample answer I've personally prepared for you. Well, if I had to pick a historical period I'd love to learn more about, it would definitely be the Vietnam War against the United States. This was a time when Vietnam, my country, faced one of the most powerful nations in the world. And honestly, it's a period that really fascinates me. I first learned about this war through stories from my grandparents and history lessons at school. They'd tell me about how ordinary people, like farmers, stood up against this massive military with tanks and planes. One thing that really stuck with me was how our people managed to shoot down those huge B-52 bombers. I mean, those planes were called flying fortresses because they were supposed to be unbeatable, but somehow we did it. That kind of courage just blows my mind. The reason I want to dive deeper into this period is that I'm really curious about the strategies and tactics our people used. Like, how did they outsmart such a strong enemy? I also want to know more about what life was like back then. How did people keep going through such tough times? I think learning about this would give me a better sense of my country's resilience and spirit. I really wish I'd paid more attention in history class because then I'd know so much more about the Vietnam War. Learning about it now would help me feel closer to my Vietnamese roots and inspire me to face challenges with the same strength our people showed back then.
All right, that was a solid Part 2 response. If you're aiming for Band 7 or higher, you're absolutely on the right track. Let's break it down together and highlight what you're already doing well and what you can build on. I'll also explain some great vocabulary and idioms you used and how to use them naturally.
All right, everyone. Today we're going to tackle a common problem many of you face in IELTS Speaking Part 2, and that is how to begin your answer. I've noticed that many students, when they get a cue card like describe a historical event, play it very safe. They start with something like, today I want to talk about, or I'm going to describe. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but don't you agree it's a bit boring and predictable? The examiner has heard that line thousands of times. So how can we upgrade our answer? How can we make a better impression and sound more natural from the very first second? Now, I want everyone to listen closely to this opening. Well, if I had to pick a historical period I'd love to learn more about, it would definitely be the Vietnam War against the United States. See the difference? It sounds much smoother and more sophisticated, right? So let's break down what makes this sentence so effective. First and most importantly is the structure. If I had to pick, I'd love to. This is a very clever use of the second conditional. Remember, the second conditional is used to describe a hypothetical or imaginary situation in the present. In reality, no one is forcing you to choose, but you're imagining that scenario. By using this small grammatical structure, you immediately show the examiner that you can use complex grammar naturally. Next, let's look at the word choice. Why pick and not choose? Well, in spoken and conversational English, the word pick often feels more informal, relaxed, and personal. It's a very small detail, but these small details make a big difference. It helps you sound like you're having a real conversation, not just reciting a memorized answer. And here's the best part. This structure is like a master key. It's incredibly flexible. You can apply it to almost any topic in Part 2. Let's say the topic is describe a book you like. Instead of the old opening, you could say, well, if I had to pick a book I'd love to talk about, it would definitely be The Alchemist. Or for a place, if I had to pick a place I'd love to visit, it would have to be Japan. See, it's simple but very effective. Now, let's talk about the phrase, faced one of the most powerful nations in the world. That little structure, one of the most, followed by an adjective and a noun, is like a spotlight. It instantly highlights the scale or importance of something. Here, it's one of the most powerful nations, and it makes you sit up and take notice. It's not just saying Vietnam faced a strong country, it's emphasizing that they took on a global titan, which adds drama and weight to the story. This structure is incredibly versatile. You can use it to talk about almost anything and make it sound significant. For instance, if you're describing a place, you might say, I visited one of the most beautiful cities I've ever seen. Or if you're talking about a personal challenge, you could say, it was one of the most difficult tasks I've ever faced. The formula is simple. One of the most plus an adjective like beautiful, challenging, or inspiring, plus a noun like cities, tasks, or moments.
It's a go-to way to make your point stand out, whether you're telling a story, answering a question, or writing a persuasive essay. It grabs attention and gives your words a sense of grandeur without sounding over the top. Now, let's move to the second part. It's a period that really fascinates me. That word fascinates is doing some serious work. It's not just saying the speaker likes the topic, it's conveying a deep, almost irresistible curiosity. Compared to a word like interests, which is perfectly okay but a bit flat, fascinates feels alive. It suggests you're not just mildly curious, you're hooked, eager to dive deeper into the subject. In this case, it's the Vietnam War, but you could use fascinates for all sorts of topics. Maybe you're talking about a scientific discovery, and you say, "The way black holes bend time and space fascinates me." Or perhaps it's a hobby, like, "The art of origami fascinates me because of its precision and creativity." So, how do you put these tools to work? Let's say you're in a conversation or a speaking test, and you need to talk about something you care about. You can use one of the most to give your topic weight. For example, if you're discussing a favorite book, you might say, "It's one of the most inspiring stories I've ever read." This sets the stage, signaling that this isn't just any book, it's exceptional. Then, to show your personal connection, drop in fascinates. You could add, "The way the characters overcome their struggles fascinates me." Suddenly, your answer feels vivid, passionate, and engaging. And if you want to make it even more conversational, you can borrow from the original sentence and toss in a phrase like "honestly" or "to be honest" to sound relatable, like you're sharing a personal thought. For instance, "Honestly, the way technology is shaping our future fascinates me." Let's continue our exploration of engaging language by looking at these two compelling sentences that bring history to life through personal storytelling. The first one is, "I first learned about this war through stories from my grandparents and history lessons at school. They tell me about how ordinary people, like farmers, stood up against this massive military with tanks and planes." And the second, "One thing that really stuck with me was how our people managed to shoot down those huge B-52 bombers." These lines aren't just recounting facts, they're painting vivid pictures and evoking emotions. First, let's focus on "stood up against" in the phrase "ordinary people, like farmers, stood up against this massive military with tanks and planes." This is a phrasal verb that carries real power. It means to resist or fight back against something stronger or more oppressive. It's not just a neutral term like thought. It implies courage and defiance, which makes the narrative feel heroic and inspiring. In this context, it highlights the bravery of everyday folks against overwhelming odds. What's great about "stood up against" is its flexibility. You can use it in historical discussions, like talking about civil rights movements where people stood up against injustice, or in social topics, such as communities standing up against environmental threats. Even on a personal level, it works well. Think of someone who stood up against bullying in school. For example, you might say, "In my community, local residents stood up against a big corporation trying to pollute our river." This not only shows resistance, but also underscores the disparity, making your point more impactful. Now, shifting to the second sentence, let's examine "really stuck with me." One thing that really stuck with me was how our people managed to shoot down those huge B-52 bombers. This is a fantastic idiom that means something has made a lasting impression or stayed etched in your memory. It's more expressive than just saying, "I remember." It conveys that the idea or event has lingered, almost like it's glued to your thoughts. You can use "stuck with me" across various topics to share impactful experiences. For movies, you might say, "The twist ending really stuck with me long after the credits rolled." Or for books, "The character's journey really stuck with me because it mirrored my own life." Even in casual chats about experiences, like "that advice from my mentor really stuck with me during tough times."
It's a conversational idiom that makes your speech feel genuine and reflective, helping you connect emotionally with your audience. Try it when you want to transition from facts to personal feelings. It bridges the gap and keeps things engaging. Finally, let's look at shoot down in the same sentence. This is a phrasal verb with roots in military and aviation contexts, literally meaning to bring down an aircraft with gunfire, as in downing those massive B-52 bombers here. It adds a sense of action and achievement, especially against something huge, which ties back to that theme of overcoming odds. But what makes shoot down versatile is its metaphorical use. You can apply it figuratively to mean rejecting or debunking something. For example, in a debate, he tried to shoot down my idea during the meeting. Or in casual talk, don't shoot down her suggestion before hearing it out. Or in an argument or legal fight, the team managed to shoot down the opponent's arguments with solid evidence.
Let's keep building on our journey through this evocative narrative about the Vietnam War by examining another vivid sentence that captures awe and historical detail. I mean, those planes were called flying fortresses because they were supposed to be unbeatable, but somehow we did it. That kind of courage just blows my mind. Starting with flying fortresses, this is a historical nickname for the B-52 bombers, evoking their massive, heavily armed design that made them seem like impenetrable aerial strongholds. By dropping this term into the sentence, the speaker instantly adds a layer of realism and depth, transporting the listener right into the era's mindset. These weren't just planes, they were symbols of overwhelming power. It's not vague, it's specific. When applying this, choose terms that are relevant and evocative, research them if needed to ensure accuracy, and explain them briefly, like in the sentence with "because they were supposed to be unbeatable," which clarifies the nickname without overwhelming the flow. This technique works wonders for topics like history, technology, or pop culture, as it makes your narrative feel informed and engaging, drawing your audience deeper into the details. For example, if you're talking about space exploration, you might refer to the Saturn V rocket as the moonshot giant to highlight its colossal role in the Apollo missions. Or, in a sports context, you could describe Michael Jordan as Air Jordan to emphasize his legendary leaping ability. Now, let's turn to the exclamation, "That kind of courage just blows my mind." This idiom is a powerhouse for expressing sheer amazement or disbelief, going beyond a simple "surprises me" to convey something mind-blowing, almost overwhelming in its impact. It's casual yet intense, perfect for showing genuine emotion and making your reaction relatable. The "just" adds emphasis, like you're still processing the wonder. In this context, it underscores the speaker's admiration for the underdog victory, turning a historical fact into an emotional punch. What makes "blows my mind" so versatile is how it fits into countless scenarios to amp up your enthusiasm. For travel, you could say, "The view from the top of Machu Picchu just blows my mind every time." In technology, "The speed of quantum computing blows my mind. It's like science fiction come to life." Or for art, Van Gogh's use of color in Starry Night blows my mind. It's so vibrant and alive. Use it when you want to highlight something astonishing, especially in informal settings like conversations or speeches, to inject personality and connect with your audience on an emotional level. Let's continue our deep dive into this captivating narrative on the Vietnam War by examining another insightful sentence that sparks curiosity and highlights clever language choices. The reason I want to dive deeper into this period is that I'm really curious about the strategies and tactics our people used. Like, how did they outsmart such a strong enemy? This line shifts from storytelling to personal motivation, drawing us into the speaker's quest for understanding. It's packed with phrases that feel both thoughtful and conversational, making it perfect for discussions or presentations. First, consider the phrase dive deeper into in the reason I want to dive deeper into this period. This is a fresh alternative to more straightforward options like study more or learn more about, blending a sense of exploration with depth. It evokes the image of plunging into an ocean of knowledge, which adds a dynamic, almost adventurous feel, academic enough to sound sophisticated, yet natural for everyday speech. It's especially effective when you're expressing a desire to go beyond surface-level understanding. You can swap it into various contexts to show enthusiasm for investigation. For instance, in a research discussion, you might say, I want to dive deeper into climate change impacts on coastal cities. Or personally, after reading that book, I decided to dive deeper into the author's life story. Next, let's look at strategies and tactics in the strategies and tactics our people used. This is a classic collocation, a pair of words that naturally go together in specialized fields like military history, where strategies refer to big picture plans and tactics to specific actions on the ground. What makes it powerful is its applicability beyond war. It fits seamlessly into business, sports, or even gaming scenarios. For example, in a corporate setting, you could discuss the strategies and tactics companies use to enter new markets. Or in sports, the coach's strategies and tactics turned the game around in the second half. Finally, the phrase outsmart such a strong enemy wraps up the sentence with a punch, capturing the idea of triumphing through cleverness rather than brute force. Outsmart means to outwit or be more intelligent than someone, turning a potential defeat into a win via brains over brawn. Here, it emphasizes the underdog's ingenuity against a formidable opponent, adding inspiration to the narrative. In technology, you might say, innovators outsmart competitors by predicting market trends. For business, small startups often outsmart big corporations with agile decisions. Or personally, I outsmarted my fear of public speaking by practicing in small groups. Let's continue our exploration of this inspiring narrative on the Vietnam War by turning to a sentence that brings a personal, reflective touch to the discussion. I also want to know more about what life was like back then. How did people keep going through such tough times? I think learning about this would give me a better sense of my country's resilience and spirit. This line moves beyond facts and events, delving into the human side of history and the speaker's emotional connection to it. It's a beautiful way to express curiosity about endurance and national identity, making the topic feel intimate and profound. First, let's examine the idiom, keep going through such tough times, in the question, how did people keep going through such tough times? This phrase is a vivid way to describe persistence in the face of hardship, implying not just surviving, but pushing forward despite ongoing challenges. It's more dynamic than simply saying, endure difficulties, as it evokes movement and determination, like trudging through a storm without stopping. In this context, it humanizes the historical period, focusing on everyday resilience during war. What makes this idiom so useful is its broad applicability. It fits any scenario involving adversity, from personal struggles to global events. For example, in a story about overcoming illness, you might say, even after the diagnosis, she managed to keep going through those tough times by leaning on her family. Or in a motivational talk, athletes often keep going through tough times by focusing on small victories. Next, consider the collocation resilience and spirit in a better sense of my country's resilience and spirit.
This pairing is an abstract yet powerful way to describe the mental and emotional fortitude of individuals, groups, or nations. Resilience suggests bouncing back from setbacks, while spirit adds a layer of vitality, passion, or collective soul. Together, they paint a picture of unbreakable inner strength. Here, it ties the speaker's learning to a deeper appreciation of Vietnam's enduring character, making the sentence inspirational. This collocation works well for themes involving human endurance, as it's abstract enough to be poetic but concrete in impact. You can apply it to describe people, communities, or even organizations. For instance, in a history essay, the community's resilience and spirit shone through during the natural disaster. Or personally, traveling alone built my resilience and spirit in ways I never expected.
Let's wrap up our reflection on this personal and evocative take on the Vietnam War by focusing on a sentence that blends regret, cultural connection, and inspiration. I really wish I'd paid more attention in history class, because then I'd know so much more about the Vietnam War. Learning about it now would help me feel closer to my Vietnamese roots and inspire me to face challenges with the same strength our people showed back then. First, let's look at the structure. I wish I'd paid more attention. This is a classic third conditional wish form, I wish plus past perfect, used to convey regret about a past situation that can't be changed. It's stronger than simply saying, I regret not paying attention, because it draws the listener into an imagined alternative reality, what could have been if the past were different. Here, it sets a personal and reflective tone, admitting a missed opportunity that still matters. This structure is flexible. In personal growth, I wish I'd started saving money earlier, it would have given me more options now. In academic contexts, I wish I'd studied harder for that exam. I could have qualified for the scholarship. Next, consider the collocation, feel closer to my roots. This phrase conveys emotional proximity to one's origins, whether cultural, familial, or geographical. It's warmer and more personal than simply saying, connect with my heritage, and it invites the listener to picture a bond that is felt, not just understood intellectually. In the example, it ties the speaker's historical curiosity to a deep sense of belonging. You can adapt it to many contexts. Cultural immersion. Learning the language helped me feel closer to my roots. Family traditions. Cooking my grandmother's recipes makes me feel closer to my roots. Finally, let's unpack face challenges with the same strength our people showed back then. This expression combines the action face challenges to confront difficulties directly with a historical point of reference that adds depth and pride. The phrase with the same strength elevates the sentiment by linking personal determination to collective resilience from the past. It's more inspiring than a neutral statement like overcome problems because it infuses the challenge with moral weight and role modeling. You can use similar constructions in various contexts. Personal resilience. She faced challenges with the same strength her parents had during tough times. Team spirit. We face challenges with the same strength we built through years of training. This kind of phrasing works best when you want to inspire or close a speech or essay with a note of empowerment.
That's it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Please leave a like, share, and subscribe to support my channel. Plus, drop your personal requests in the comments section below if you want me to tackle a specific challenging topic. For now, it's time to say goodbye. See you next time.